Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the hug that really changed my world. And actually, it was three different hugs over three different occasions. But the hug was from a woman called the Hugging Saint. She's also known as Amma, which means like mother. And she's from Kerala, India. And those of you, if you haven't heard of her before, you just Google the Hugging Saint and you will find out everything you need to know. I'm sure most of you have heard of her. So I had my first hug from Amma. I'm going to call her Amma at this point. Back 11 years ago in 2014. And so I'm going to talk to you about that experience in this video. I did end up having two additional times that I saw her and received a hug, but the first time was really probably the most dramatic. So I'm going to share that experience with you. So let me give you a little bit of backstory to that. In 2013, I had, if you've watched some of my videos on here before, you know that I actually have been on a spiritual journey for most of my adult life. And it really started back in the 1980s with initially getting into meditation and also getting into some Indian spirituality, East Indian spirituality. And so I was very much into that, and then it kind of went dormant in me throughout the 90s. I was going to graduate school. I was much more focused on intellectual pursuits than spiritual pursuits, which in retrospect, I wish I had not been doing. I wish there had been a better balance, I guess, between the two. I don't regret my intellectual education, but I do really wish I'd kept up more with meditation and the spiritual part of me. And so then it really went dormant in the early 2000s when I went through a period of my life I called the wasteland, which I probably will do a video about on this spiritual channel because it definitely relates to, it really was very much a spiritual wasteland. And so when I started to come out of that and was fighting to come out of that actually, I started getting really interested in finding a spiritual community of people in some way, of reconnecting to the practice of meditation and enhancing that. So I had a lot of motivation to change my life. And this really started back in 2013. So about 12 years ago. And so I was looking for a community of people, and one of the places I decided to thought would be a good place to start was a Unity Church, which was I lived in the Phoenix area at the time, and it was in the Phoenix area. So I started going to this Unity Church, and through that, joined a group that did meditation, and then there were some other, they had other different types of classes and groups there. So I started really that way, and I started developing, a community of people. It took about 6-8 months really to kind of feel like I was really, among my tribe, as they would say. Well, the opportunity to go see Amma happened in June of 2014. And again, I had been intensively practicing meditation for probably about 8 months at that time. And I was living in the Phoenix area. Amma was coming to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And at that time, I think up until the pandemic, she was coming every year to the US, and one of those places she would go to was Santa Fe. I think she has stopped coming to the US now. You might want to double check that, but I don't think she's come to the US in the last 5 years. She does send like representatives, like her assistant and stuff comes and does like meditations and things like that. Well, anyway, she was coming to Santa Fe, which was probably, about a 5-hour drive away from Phoenix. And so a bunch of us decided to go over and, we'd stay overnight a couple of nights and go see her. And so when she was coming there, she did like it's a several day event. She does some things that you pay for, and then the blessings that she does, which is really the hugs, that's a free day. You don't pay for that. And so we basically, most of us just went to that. We did not go to any other types of meditations or things like that she was holding. And so we got there, and I think it was the next morning. So we spent the night, and the next morning we go over to it was actually at a big resort hotel, which was kind of jarring in a way because, it was like going to some sort of business conference. That's what the place looked like. But anyway, they had this huge ballroom thing, and it was all set up, and there was this whole dais area which was raised where people could go up and sit, and then that's where Amma was going to be, and then there were seats in the audience you could do for waiting, and then there was like vendors around the outside that were selling all sorts of memorabilia and spiritual items and all sorts of things. So it was a really it was a lot of people there. It was very, and I don't love crowds. I just don't. And so that was hard for me in a way, even in a spiritual place like this. It was really hard for me to be in a crowd. We got there, a bunch of us were there. Our meditation teacher was there, and then there was probably about 9 of us that came to this thing. And so we were all kind of standing and waiting together, and then we went in and you could sit down, but we were there way ahead of time. And there was I think you got a ticket or something that told you what group you were in, and because they all had to have it organized really well, because there were literally thousands of people there to get a hug. And so eventually, I don't honestly remember how long it took. I think around 2 to 3 hours, I'm guessing, to get up and get a hug. But it's like you went through different phases. You sat in this particular area, and then you sat in another area, and so forth. Well, eventually you're in an area, and the next thing you're going to do is walk actually up these steps and onto this stage area. And they had waiting seats there, so that, you just, they keep it moving. You go up and you get a hug, and then, then it takes like a minute or so, and then the next person comes up, and so forth. So I remember sitting there waiting to go up on the stage part. And what's so funny is, I was kind of meditating. A lot of us were. We were meditating while we're waiting. So we're already really in an altered state of consciousness. And feeling very good and very happy. But it was funny because I also periodically would watch. I could see where Amma was hugging people up on this, stage area. And she would do this thing with some people that I noticed, and I thought, that's really weird. I hope she doesn't do that with me. And what that was is somebody would come up, and what happens is she's sitting on this kind of raised seating thing, and with her legs tucked into her and stuff. And then what you would do is you would go up, and you'd either kneel, or they'd put a little stool under you if you couldn't really physically kneel, or it wasn't comfortable to kneel, and you could go up, and then you'd kind of lean into her, and she would reach and hug you. Well, so one of the things that would happen occasionally is that somebody would stay up there. Normally a hug didn't really seem to last that long for most people, but sometimes she would hug somebody and press them to her, and then kind of hold their head down on her, on her lap or whatever. And then she'd be looking around, and she'd be talking to her assistants and everybody that was kind of telling her things, and they're all speaking in their, their native language, which is not English. It's, one of the, Hindi languages or whatever. And so I remember watching that and going, oh gosh, I hope she doesn't do that to me, because it seemed really uncomfortable. You're just kind of there, and she's got kind of her hand on you, holding you down onto her, but she's not really hugging you at that moment. It's kind of interesting. So I remember sitting there going, gosh, I hope she doesn't do that to me. That just seems really, strange and stuff. Well, so we get up, and we're, kind of leapfrogging from chair to chair to get closer and closer to Amma. And meanwhile, it's a really amazing, intense atmosphere up there, because after you'd get a hug, you'd then go to this other waiting, kind of recovery area on the stage too of seats, where you were allowed to sit for however long you kind of needed to, kind of, because you were really in an altered state. I mean, just going through the hug itself was very altering. And so you kind of needed your senses back a little bit. So you'd go to this special area for recovery after the hug. And then right behind Amma, there was a lot of her, like, closest assistants and helpers and stuff like that. So there was just a whole bunch of people up on this extended stage area. Well, so, the excitement really got to you as you were kind of, leapfrogging these little chairs to get closer and closer to Amma. And I noticed that, my eyes started filling with tears. I started just I wasn't like I was sobbing or anything, but tears were just streaming down my face. Some people were kind of almost laughing. Like there was this, in spirituality, there's a very thin line between laughing and crying. Like they're both arise out of the same, kind of spiritual sensations that occur inside you. And so I remember I had tears in my eyes as I got closer to her, and then it was my turn. And I got up there, and they asked if I needed a stool, and I said yes. And so they had this great system. They just slid a stool right under you while you went up there. And Amma grabbed me. I mean, she's really strong, and she grabbed me. I mean, she's a little thing. She's actually not super tall, but she's really strong. Anyway, she grabbed me, and she presses you into her chest. And I mean, I cannot describe to you what the feeling was spiritually. I don't have the right words. I can tell you that I felt transported, that I felt like, it's almost like I had my eyes closed and I could almost, and she says something in your ear. Sometimes it's an English word and sometimes it's her local language word, but she'll whisper something then into your ear. And, but I swear, like behind my closed eyes, it's like I could almost just see the universe. Like I felt like I was out in the stars and I could just see the universe. And I thought, well, that's so strange. Like I was aware that was strange because I knew I wasn't hallucinating. And I was like, why do I feel this sense of expansiveness? Like I'm really a child of the universe. That's how it felt. And then in the next moment, she pushes my head down and does that thing that I was hoping she wouldn't do. She pushes my head down and she just starts talking to her assistants and just like ignoring me. I thought, why is she doing this? Am I being punished? What is this all about? I don't understand. And so then I almost got angry. While she's still touching me. And I'm just feeling now this complete change of like feeling. And then she comes back and she looks at me. She pushes me away from her, but she's holding on to me. And she looks at me. And then it's like I get it. Like, I get it. And then she hugs me back to her again. And then the tears just start flowing. And I'm just like, oh. And I'm just like in bliss. In bliss. And I honestly don't know how long any of that lasted. It could have just been a minute. Could have been maybe 2 minutes at most. It felt like it was forever. It felt like it lasted. The whole combination of things. Me having the sense of the universe, her pushing my head down and talking to other people behind her, and then drawing me back to her. It felt like it was like 3-4 times as long as it was. So then I get up and they help you up, thank goodness, because I was like fried at that point. I was in a daze, I was fried, and they kind of direct you, they take you to where you need to be for the recovery area, because you could just literally, in that state, you could just flip off but you could just flip off it's like a metal stage they had set up, and stuff. You literally could just take a header off that thing. You'd be so out of it. So they have to kind of hold you and direct you. Anyway, I get to the recovery area and I'm just sitting there just like, but I'm watching stuff going on even as I'm like doing that. And I see the assistants. She's got this guru guy that I don't know his name, but he's a really prominent, like her second second in command guy, and he's behind her, and I'm watching him because he looks fascinating to me as a person. Like I can feel his energy and stuff. It was really amazing, and I'm just still tripping over that whole thing. Like, again, I think I was probably up there maybe 10 minutes in the recovery area. And then I started feeling like a little bit more grounded and took some deep breaths. And I was able to then go and exit off this whole, elevated stage thing they had going. And you go down and then you can go sit down somewhere else and I just couldn't speak for a while. Like, honestly, could not speak. And I started internally kind of laughing about the fact that the very thing I didn't want to happen is what she did to me. And it was funny because later I chatted with my meditation teacher who was there, and he watched a bunch of us because we were all his little, pupils in meditation, and he watched us go through our blessings with her, and he could not resist. He was laughing, and he goes, Allison, that was like perfect when she pushed your head down. I said, yeah, I didn't want it. He goes, I know. He knew, I think I had said to him even before that I didn't want that. And he just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He goes, you always get what you need. Like, so anyway, I was so blissed out. I had no appetite. I didn't need to eat. I was just on cloud nine for probably hours. I don't know how long. But it was an amazing experience. And if you ever get an opportunity to meet one of these, what I call like really amazing spiritual teachers, it's an incredible experience because there is something real going on there. There is something real going on there. That these people, I guess my takeaway from it as I was going up there, as I had my blessing, as I sat in the recovery thing afterwards, my take on it was that the energy around her and what was going on in that moment, it's almost like it reshaped the time-space continuum. Like things were not operating at normal time or normal rules in that weird like energy space. It was very, very, that's why the sense I had was that when I got my blessing, which was like in several parts, it felt like I was up there forever. But I wasn't. I know realistically it was at most maybe a couple of minutes. And, but it felt like forever. And so it's like almost the rules of quantum physics were just like altered. Or I should say the rules of regular physics were altered and it was like a quantum physics type of thing. I guess that would be more accurate to say. Anyway, I have to say that was just amazing. And it really solidified and really boosted my whole intention to continue on a spiritual journey. I did see Amma. I probably will discuss the next 2 times I went to her. Every time was slightly different, but they were all equally as powerful. It's like you get what you need in the moment is what I think happens. You get what you need in that moment. So again, I cannot advocate enough that if you ever get a chance to, you probably, unless you go to India, you probably wouldn't see Amma directly, but there's a lot of other spiritual gurus and teachers and stuff that do similar things. And if you ever get a chance to go to somebody that is for real, I mean, these people, some of these people really have an amazing connection to the divine. They really do. And you can't deny that something is very powerful is going on. So that's my story of how basically getting that hug really did help to change my world. It did. I mean, I once you have something like that, you don't ever go back to not knowing. There's something that changes in you permanently. So anyway, that's my story for today. I wish all of you well. Be kind to yourself and others. Take care. Bye.